Firstly, Happy New Year everyone. Yes, we took a break for YouTube reviews over the holiday period. We should have put up some Let's Plays or some other types of reviews, but, well, we didn't. We're back with video reviews and podcast reviews, so if you want more about gaming, check out the podcast. Now, let's get on with the review. Before we start, if you're concerned on visual spoilers for a video game, you can listen to the review. Yes, that's right, you can listen to the review, and I'm not talking about putting your phone in your pocket and not looking at the screen. You can listen to the podcast review of Dragon Ball Z Kakarot on Shaken Not Noob, found under the Shaken Not Nerd banner on your favourite podcast app. Dragon Ball Z has captured the hearts, imagination, and attentions of kids, adults, and even gamers all over the world. There's been some outstanding Dragon Ball games, but Dragon Ball Z Kakarot does something we've not seen before by giving us an open world game similar to Arkham Knight. But what's it like being Goku in an open world? Is it as good as 2018 Spider-Man? Or is it basically like every Superman game we've ever gotten? Shit.
His tail's probably his weak point.
If you've never watched Dragon Ball Z, played Dragon Ball Z, or know anything about the world of Dragon Ball, call your parents. Tell them you had a shit childhood, and it's their fault you suck. If you know nothing about Dragon Ball, that's fine. We all have to start somewhere. Dragon Ball Z Kakarot plays out basically the exact same way as every other Dragon Ball Z game. You'll replay the story of the TV series with Goku and the Z Fighters defending Earth from threats. If none of this makes sense, Goku is, in layman's terms, Superman. A baby arriving on Earth after his planet explodes, but originally, Goku was programmed to destroy and conquer Earth. Goku isn't even his real name, just like Clark Kent is for Kal-El. And if you can't tell by the title of the game, his birth name is Kakarot. Dragon Ball Z Kakarot starts with Episode 1 of Dragon Ball Z, even before Goku's son Gohan gets taken hostage by his brother Raditz. Players will not only go up against the main events of the show, going up against Frieza, Cell and Buu, but there's also side missions which will get fans excited. Now with basically every aspect of the show being covered in this game, forewarning, Dragon Ball Z Kakarot is a long haul. It'll easily take more than 3 to 5 hours to finish the Saiyan saga alone.
You know, believe it or not, battles aren't just about strength. Oh, that gives me an idea.
You're pretty arrogant for scum.
You'll start the game as, well, Goku, learning how to do basic tasks such as fish, equip healing items, and use what's called a community board. But we'll get back to that in a second. Just like in the show, Goku cannot fly from the get-go and will need to call upon the Flying Nimbus. Whatever happened to the Flying Nimbus? I think the last time we saw it was when Gohan rides it to school. I mean, it's a flying cloud that you can ride. Why aren't we seeing this more? Anyway, shortly after you go to Kami House and Raditz will appear and kidnap Gohan and you'll team up with Piccolo just like in the show. Graphically, Dragon Ball Z Kakarot is damn pretty. It looks damn close to a perfect representation of the show, and thankfully it's not those designs that we got in Jump Force.
Is this it? Do you think this is enough to take on the Saiyans?
Combat in Dragon Ball Z Kakarot is simple enough with one button inputs for basic attacks like melee and ki blast, vanish, dodge, and also you powering up or charging up. Holding down the left bumper, you'll be able to perform a super attack, which is your basic bread and butter of combat. Special attacks include the standard Kamehameha, the special beam cannon, the Masenko, the Dragon Fist, basically everything you've seen in the shows. Anytime these attacks are used on screen, not only did it bring back my childhood memories and make me feel like I was sitting cross-legged on the floor with a bowl of cereal.
Jesus, it's begun. God help them all.
All I know is, if Dastardly and Muttley are up to their old tricks, there's gonna be a lot of violence today.
The fluoro blue of the Kamehameha ate up any colour surrounding the beam. It's bold, beautiful, and unlike things like Rage and the most recent FIFA titles, the fluoro actually makes sense. Thankfully, there are also no invisible walls in Dragon Ball Z Kakarot, so if you hit your target so hard they go flying through a mountain, you'll have to chase them or expect them to come back at you with a heavy hit. By looking in the bottom corner, you can see that there are 3 bars. Life, which like basically all Dragon Ball Z games, have multiple bars underneath them, which is your health. The energy bar that allows you to perform energy-based attacks, and what's called a tension gauge bar, which is this yellow bar on the far right. When this is full and your energy is full, you can use a surge ability. This will drain your tension bar, but you receive a temporary boost. Now this isn't how you transform. When you unlock the ability to transform, you'll pull both triggers and hit the corresponding button. For example, using Kaioken will buff your stats, but it'll slowly drain your health because it is a taxing transformation. So you need to be careful when you transform, you can't just go in willy-nilly. In some fights, you'll also have support characters. They'll be on the battlefield and have certain roles. For example, Piccolo is a defense character. So if you're playing as Goku and you're about to get hit by a big ass blast, Piccolo will jump in front and take the hit for you. This case in point is why Piccolo is a top bloke. Goku was an offensive character who will just focus on taking out the enemy, while someone like Krillin, who is more of a support character, will focus on keeping you alive, but deals out minor damage and also doesn't like to take damage. You'll also be able to tell your support character to attack for you. So if there's an enemy stunned, you'll be able to tell Piccolo to use his special beam cannon while you're charging up a Kamehameha. I'm not gonna lie, strategically thinking of what attack you want Piccolo to use while you plan out your attacks is pretty cool. There are also small gauges for each support character, and when these are full, you'll be able to do a special combo. You'll knock your opponent around before both of you and your support character fire your signature move at the same time.
Solar flare!
I'm blind.
As you can probably see and tell by now, that is, if the phone isn't in your pocket and you're just listening to this review, you don't only play as Goku, but you also play as characters like Piccolo, Vegeta, Gohan, and more. Sadly, you can't play as Krillin or my boy Tien, but thankfully they can be support characters. You'll be able to equip and change your favorite abilities, so if you don't like Gohan's Masenko, it's gone. Though, what took me by surprise, and this is spoilers for the show, so if you haven't seen the show, or you're going in cold, skip a little bit if you want to. Goku dies fighting Raditz at the end, and he travels down Snake Way to King Kai's planet. But you don't do any of this. You'll see it in a cutscene, but you'll play as Piccolo training Gohan, or you'll play as Gohan trying to survive in the wild. I was looking forward to seeing how they handled Snake Way, but they just completely skipped it. In the show, this is a filler section, of course, but it's fun. We should have learnt how to fly with King Kai, tried to catch Gregory, but instead we played as Gohan and punched deers so hard they explode. Goku will actually learn how to fly in his fight with Raditz, which doesn't actually happen in the show. I mean, sure, like Goku can fly randomly now, I guess. I understand you can't have everything 100% from the show, but if there's a side mission for me to find apples for a starving Gohan who's on top of a bluff, then surely we get Goku learning how to fly from King Kai. Anyway, back to playable characters. It's pretty rad flying around as Piccolo as well. Of course, all the previous Dragon Ball Z games, his cape feels like it's made out of cardboard, where in this it actually has more of a movement characteristic to it. It looks awesome. Like, look at it now. Now, outside of combat, you'll be in a semi-open world. Not an open world like Spider-Man or Batman Arkham City, but decently sized sandbox areas to which you can fly up into the sky and then go into a world map and go to different parts of this world. I will admit I was a little bit bummed out as soon as I saw this, though these sandboxes are pretty big, and flying around at full speed for a completely linked open world would take way too long to go from one side to the other. Goku's house is in one area, the open plains and rocky terrain from Season 1 of Dragon Ball Z is in another area, and no shit, Namek is a completely different other area. In these open worlds, you can do side missions, which the first one you do is finding a porno magazine for Master Roshi. You'll also be able to fish using your Saiyan tail. Bulma has made Goku and Gohan a fake Saiyan tail that will let them fish, while Piccolo just pulls out a fishing rod. Of course, fishing lets you cook a meal at a campfire that'll give you permanent and temporary boosts to attack damage and increasing your health. You'll also be able to take the ingredients you get from fishing and you take them to Chi-Chi or a cook in the area and they'll give you even better effects. At first I thought this was a gimmick, but realized you actually need to eat to buff yourself before battles. For example, I lost 3 rounds against Vegeta, essentially the end fight of Season 1 of Dragon Ball Z. After losing, I went back to free roam, found a campfire and buffed Goku before going back in and bam, I won. You'll also find coloured orbs throughout the area which act as currency for upgrading abilities. You'll start of course with a level 1 Kamehameha. Before long you'll be going around collecting orbs like you're playing Crackdown and upgrading your moves to do more damage. You will need to complete challenges to upgrade certain moves or learn other moves, but flying around and getting orbs is a bit of a sidetracked fun. You'll also get these orbs and of course experience by completing the main missions. One of the final things you can do outside of combat is earn soul tokens which go on a community board. This to me is the most confusing aspect of the game. There's multiple boards with a heap of different tokens you can put down. The Z board is used to put the fighters down, such as Tien and Yamcha and Chaozu, while they give you buffs for fighting. So if you put Tien down into the Z board, it'll give you a fighting buff. Putting Chi-Chi down on the cooking board will give you better cooking and eating buffs, and so on. You'll also be able to give gifts to your tokens which further increase their effectiveness. You'll be able to give fighting gi to the Z fighters, an apron to Chi-Chi, and of course dirty magazines to Master Roshi. This community board feels a little bit like a tacked on addition that didn't need to be put into the game. Multiple times I've received tokens and gifts and completely forgotten about them and don't care about them. I understand it's a way to show that Goku does become friends with basically everyone he meets, but I just think this particular mode just seems really tacked on. I don't care for it, honestly, I don't care for it.
Who are you?
Hey, know what you call a cow with no legs? Ground beef.
Huh?
Thankfully, unlike Jump Force, you'll be able to have the English voiceover. Hearing all the iconic voices that I heard daily during my childhood can never be replaced. Now that's not to say I don't like the original voices, but that's also because I grew up with the English dub. Anyways, back to the review. Yes, you can have the English dub, but you can see in every dialogue scene the lip sync is clearly set up for the Japanese dub, so there'll be a lot of this.
Hello? Can we talk later? This is not a good time for me. Just a moment, I've got a call waiting.
What Dragon Ball Z Kakarot could use from Jump Force is character damage. I defeated Raditz at the start of the game, but I did take a fair amount of damage as my dodging skills are as good as the 2016 Ghostbuster film. Now at the end of the fight, Goku's attire was fine. But straight after the fight, a cutscene plays where my shirt's been ripped off. Now in Jump Force, if I were on the wrong side of an attack, I'd see Goku who looked like a Collingwood fan. His shirt would be ripped and he'd look physically exhausted. But in Dragon Ball Z Kakarot, he'll take no damage and instantly look exhausted in the cutscene following this. Should there be another fight that immediately takes place after the cutscene, you will wear the damaged clothing.
Entire planet to smithereens! No way!
One problem I've had with Dragon Ball Z Kakarot are the controls. The button mapping just doesn't work. Well, look, at least for me. I currently play this on Xbox, so if I'm talking about something on an Xbox controller, it's basically the same for the PlayStation. The B button, which is your circle, is melee, X is used for small ki blast, A is dodge, and Y is charge your ki. And multiple times during battles I've mashed X thinking I'd be wailing on with fists, but I'm throwing small ki blasts. This sounds like I am nitpicking, but let's get to the flight controls. To start flying, in free roam, press A, which is your jump button, and then press it again while you're in the air and you'll start flying. Pretty straightforward, pretty standard. After that, if you want to go up, press and hold the right bumper. If you want to go down, use the right trigger. I mean, why isn't the jump button go up when you're flying? It took me a good couple of hours to actually get these controls.
It seems you know who I am.
Of course I do! You're the guy who fought Goku in the World Tournament. I was there too.
Lastly, this game is a Dragon Ball Z RPG, and for the most part, it is. You'll need to eat, upgrade skills, the community board, but you won't be able to change your attire. Now look, shut up. I mean, what's the point? You'll replay the series and wear what the characters are wearing during those seasons. But if my clothes could rip in combat after battles, you could have the option to repair them or change them completely. Then you could have the option of equipping the Cell Games armor on Vegeta would be better than the armor he wears on Namek. Now this isn't really a negative and it won't reflect my score of the game, but it is the tiniest bit of a bummer. Dragon Ball Z Kakarot is an outstanding Dragon Ball game. It is a great first step for an open world Dragon Ball game as well. It's got some small problems with it, but hey, you might not have these issues, but I did. Now if you love Dragon Ball Z, you'll love this game. It's got the serious moments from the series faithfully recreated, and even the goofy moments. And if you've never seen Dragon Ball, but for some reason you've watched this review, it's gotten your attention, if you like what you see, give it a look, and it's available now on Xbox, PlayStation, and the PC.